Okay, hi. My name is Reg Boulanger. I'm the owner of Batteries Tech 2000. If you've been looking for information on battery reconditioning on the internet, you have certainly seen my name many times. The fact is that I've been doing battery reconditioning for the last 15 years. I have operated a battery reconditioning business and reconditioned and sold thousands of batteries. At one time, I was selling 300 to 400 batteries per week. So if you do the maths, over a period of 15 years, that certainly adds up to tens of thousands of batteries. So I believe I can speak on the subject with authority. I understand that you're interested in battery reconditioning. If you're looking for information and documentation on that subject, you're at the right place. This video is really meant to help you decide what documentation you need and where to get this documentation. Of course, what you need depends on what you really want to do. For instance, if you're looking for ways to recharge or recondition your own car battery, there's plenty of information available on the internet for this kind of project. But if you're looking to set up a battery reconditioning business, it's a completely different story. If you're planning to start such a business, the information contained in this video will be very useful to you. Here are the two first questions that we get from people who are looking to start a battery reconditioning business. The first question is, where could I possibly get the information I need to decide if this is the kind of business that I'm looking for? And the second question generally goes something like this: how much money will I need to invest to make this thing work? First of all, let's say that battery reconditioning can be set up as a small, medium-size, or large-scale business. It can be a part-time activity or a full-time job. It only depends on what your objectives are and what efforts you're willing to put into it. Concerning documentation, just bear with me for a few minutes and it will be made very clear for you. As for the second question, the fact is that you could launch this business with as little as a few $100s, in some cases with less than $1,000. By the way, all figures quoted in this video are in Canadian currency. In addition to the two simple but fundamental questions that I just referred to, it's clear that you will need much more than this in order to be able to launch your business. Following is a sample of the questions you will need to find answers to before you get involved in the purchase of equipment. Like a question like, how much money do you really need to launch your business? Some promoters will ask that you put up as much as $10,000 to $20,000. Does that make sense? Other question like, what batteries can be reconditioned? Where do you get those batteries? How much should you pay for them? Or how do you test those batteries before you even attempt to recondition them? If you don't know that, chances are that you will find yourself losing more than 50% of your time on batteries that cannot be reconditioned. And by the way, it is not true that any and all batteries can be reconditioned. Other questions like, what process should you be using to effectively recondition those batteries? Or, are chemical products essential? Are they even useful? How will you know if your reconditioning system is doing the job? Where do you sell your reconditioned batteries? At what price do you sell those reconditioned batteries? How do you set that price? And what about guarantees? For how long? On what terms and conditions? Finally, there are over 60 different models of batteries on the market. Which ones should you select? If you are not aware of this, you could very well end up building an inventory of batteries that don't sell because there is little or no demand for them. Now, if you think about this for a minute, it's obvious that someone who has not been involved in the business of battery reconditioning cannot possibly answer those questions. And if you proceed to buy equipment too quickly before you find answers to those questions, you may be disappointed later on. As an example, here's a piece of information that should interest you. Probably because I've been online for many years on the subject, I receive emails just about every week from people who purchase documentation equipment, or kits of all sorts and who don't really know what to do with them. People who purchase documentation that they don't really understand, documentation for which they have paid and that they realize is useless because it is incomplete. To avoid this kind of situation, here are two very important recommendations. First of all, whatever you do, make sure that you get your information from someone who has operated a real battery reconditioning business. This is the safest way to ascertain that you're dealing with someone who knows what he's talking about. Just as an example, anybody who has done battery reconditioning on a commercial basis would never suggest that you work on one battery at a time. Likewise, a recommendation to do battery reconditioning with a simple battery charger has to come from someone who has never done battery reconditioning on a commercial basis. Those two suggestions just don't make sense for commercial operations. Secondly, you really need to make sure that you are looking at battery reconditioning as a business. Battery reconditioning as a business actually has very little to do with what an individual would need to know in order to try and recondition his own car battery. I can assure you that it is a completely different ballgame if you aim to operate a battery reconditioning business. You need to be aware of this, as you will realize that the documentation and advice that is offered on the net is rarely designed for commercial use. Now, where can you find this kind of information? Well, I have written and published a complete information manual in the form of an ebook on the subject of battery reconditioning. I call it the Bible on battery reconditioning. I know it's a big name, but that's really what it represents. My information manual has over 90 pages. It will answer all your questions on battery reconditioning and then some. Once you have read it, you will be able to start your business without further training. Let's repeat that. Once you have read and assimilated the content of our information manual, you will be ready to start your business without further training. In addition, you will be able to use the information contained in our manual with any battery reconditioning system or equipment. You will not have to buy our equipment. So if you're serious about battery reconditioning as a business, you can download our information manual at the first address that you see on the screen below the picture or below the logo. If you need more information, just visit our website at the second address that appears on the screen. And of course, if you are watching this video from our website, simply shut off the video and continue on the next paragraph. Thanks for listening and best of luck.